Hi, I'm the Keith Wilson from Y Technology founder. Um, so one of the things I want to talk about in this video is, magic isn't real, right? Like a lot of times what we're hearing with AI currently is there are lots of discussions about what AI can do and what it can do and blah, blah, blah. And most of it is grossly over promoting what the technology can do. For example, like one of the things that I think people should be aware of is, the idea of artificial intelligence is built on machine learning. And machine learning is basically the idea that you can teach computers things. There are a number of things that you can teach a computer, and there's a number of things that you can't. One of the things that computers are really good at doing is what's called supervised learning, right? And what happens with supervised learning is that you provide the computer enough examples of a one thing where it can basically determine that thing is or isn't. You know what I mean? And you can do it in a lot of different ways. You can be done visually, it can be done with data that you provided, but basically you do what's called labeling a data. You identify what the data is, and then you teach the system by providing a bunch of different examples. And by a bunch, I mean, in some cases, thousands and tens of thousands of examples. One of the thing that I think would probably be interesting for is for a person to, Google has a thing called teachable machine learning. It's a application that you can play with. And, I was toying with it recently and trying to teach the algorithm to basically understand or see a purse, right? It was a product purse, right? I provided 1,000 examples, and it did a pretty good job of being able to denote that something was a purse and not a purse. But all the examples that I provided were just a purse or the hat or sock or whatever you would use, and there was nothing else. What the algorithm had a problem doing is identifying it amongst other things, right? Like so, there weren't a lot of examples of people holding purses. There wasn't a lot of examples of people wearing hats or whatever. So there was some confusion about how that necessarily worked. But with enough training examples, you can teach a machine how to do certain things. A lot of what's weird about the discussions around AI right now is they are conflating that basic machine learning foundation with this higher level artificial intelligence that's coming, or we think Chat GPT is, or blah blah blah. And I think we have to apply at least some basic level of critical thinking, right? And this is partly the reason why I'm doing this video. What we don't do enough asking, and I see a lot of examples of this on the internet, again, this gross over promotion of what you could be doing with AI. And it's hard for me to determine whether they are over promoting because they don't understand the technology, or they're over promoting because, they have a vested interest in doing so. But some of the stuff is just blatantly wrong, right? So recently there was an example of this guy basically using Chat GPT to determine whether or not this was a good web page. The landing page was a good web page, and supposedly he put the prompt in, and the prompt was so amazing. Chat GPT responded back with, "All right, it's great in this area, blah 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 blah." Well, the question you have to ask yourself is, what training data does Chat GPT have in order to be able to make that assessment? Chat GPT is trained on language across the entire internet, right? What it presumes in order for that to be correct is there's this repository of good web page, bad web page, labeled information out there that was available during the time of index, and in some kind of way it could extrapolate through that text that this is a good or bad website. And that's crap, right? Anyone that's ever built a website or worked with designers or worked with customers or worked with owners, one thing that you'll find out very quickly is subjective and qualitative assessments are very difficult to nail down, right? Like for what's good for a designer may not necessarily be good for a user, and may not necessarily be something that the end customer is happy with. So there's a bunch of back and forth in terms of trying to figure that out. That's one of the things when you build a website for a customer, that's one of the things that you're trying to flesh out is what's valuable for the business, what's valuable for the user, and how do you use, qualitative best practices as a designer to get those things to map out. But if you ask 5 designers, you're going to get 5 different answers. If you ask 50 designers, you're going to get 50 different answers. And if you ask 50 users, you're going to get a bunch of different answers, because 9 times out of 10, they don't even see the things that the designer is expecting or that the business owner would expect it to be in. I say all that to say that there is no database of qualitative information out there for a product like ChatGPT to pull from. So if it's giving you an answer that is a definitive, hey, this is good or that is good, it's making it up. And it's making it up because that's exactly what it's designed to do. The tool is designed to, basically capture the next word in a sentence. It is trying to complete a story. It's trying to tell a story based on the data that's seen, which is completely different than asking it a qualitative question. So when someone tells you this copy is good because I use ChatGPT, or this website is good because I use ChatGPT, the question you really need to ask yourself is, what data fed into ChatGPT in order to make it, the discerning factor or the person that can determine whether or not something is good or bad. If human beings suck at it, how would ChatGPT be good at it, or any other of these AI products? That's one of the things that's kind of like really relevant in a bunch of different spaces. I see marketers, I see, vast period people in lots of industries claiming that these technologies can do things that they grossly can't do. And as a small business owner, I think one of the things that I want to kind of empower my I don't want to say followers, my audience with, is the idea of just still using critical thinking in relation to these things. Like, if the product is saying that it can do something, the question you need to ask is, where would it get that data from? Where's the data that allows ChatGPT to answer a question like how good a web page is, or how good the copy is, or this particular marketing strategy will work? How would it know? No, is there like a database somewhere with a million public database for that matter, with a million different business plans, and that's been labeled what's successful and not successful? You and I both know that doesn't exist in a real world. So how would the AI know? And the reality is the AI doesn't know. The AI is telling you what you want to hear because, again, its algorithm is designed to, tell a story, complete the story. Whatever is the beginning of the story, it figures out how to end it. And whether or not it's true or not is really not its problem. What it's trying to do is work out the math of, how do I determine what's the next sentence or next word in this particular sentence, and how do I feel this story? The end result that you end up taking, thinking this is amazing, and out to the world with it, you're gonna find you have some problems with that because there was no data for it to answer that question in the first place. And in a lot of cases, a lot of questions that get asked, you really have to ask yourself, where would it get the answer from? Don't blindly believe that the answer is coming back. It's a computer is right. That's not the case at all. In most of the cases, it's wrong because it's not designed to determine what's right versus what's wrong. What it's designed to do is to give you the next word in the sentence. So it'll tell you what you want to hear because that's what it's supposed to do. That's what it was programmed to do. Thinking of it as some magical tool that can discern all these things that even human beings themselves can't collectively discern, or from data that doesn't exist, really puts you in a bad situation. So just keep that in mind. Okay, that's it.